We are finishing up our exponent laws. If you've been doing the forms for every day, slowly but surely, we have eased you into the exponent laws. There's only one law technically that you ever need to remember, and it's anything to the 0 power is equal to 1. And on the last video I did, I showed the pattern that proved this. Anything to the 0 power is 1. Okay, so that's the only law that you actually need to remember. The rest you can find out by expanding. But I am going to go through the laws real quickly. I know that some of you are definitely having struggles identifying the bases. That's another thing I'm going to go through quickly. So the first law that we went over is that anything, as long as the bases are the same, if I'm taking a base to a power times another base, that same base to a different power, all I have to do is add those two exponents, and this becomes x to the 8th power. This works as long as the bases are the same. Okay, and it's when I'm multiplying the bases. If I had something like this, x to the 5th times y to the 3rd, that does not equal xy to the 8th. Because the bases are different. This is actually in simplified form. I couldn't make it any more simplified. Okay, so our first rule is anything to the 0 power is 1. Our second rule is that if I have the same bases and I'm multiplying them, then to find the exponent of the product of that is by adding those. That's our second one. Okay, our third rule that we went over was if I was dividing two expressions with the same bases. So if I have x to the 8th divided by x to the 5th, this is the same as x to the 8 minus 5, so I'm subtracting those, which would then equal x to the 3rd. And again, I can figure this out by expanding it. So the third rule is if I'm dividing and they have the same bases, I'm going to call this a, divided by x to the b power. Again, they have to have the same bases. The bases are x. This is equal to the x to the a minus b power. And the last one that I showed you yesterday was if I am taking an expression to a power to another power, it turns out that I multiply those, and this will become x to the 2 times 3, which is equal to x to the 6th power. And that rule says x to the a to the b power is equal to x to the a times b. Okay, so those are our 4 rules. The other thing that I've noticed is that we're struggling with finding bases. If I have something, you have to be very careful when it comes to it. If I have 6x to the y to the 2nd power, 6 is a base, but it's being taken to the 1st power. X is a base, it's being taken to the 1st power. And y is another base being taken to the 2nd power. If I expanded this, it becomes 6 times x times y, which is totally different if I have 6xy squared. I'll put the squared out here. Okay, now this 6x and y are a base, but now they're the whole base being squared, and this comes to 6 times x times y times 6 times x times y. You have to be careful with that. These rules work with the same base. If I had 6x squared y x to the 3rd, and these are all being multiplied, times 3, this is really the only thing that I can actually use the rule on is the 2 x's, because those have the same base, and I can take 6 times 3. This would be the same as 6 times 3, I'm just going to regroup them, times x squared times x cubed times y. It would simplify to be 18 times x to the 5th times y. Okay, so when you're using these rules, you have to identify your bases, and then you can use the rules that apply. Okay, one more time real quickly with the rules. The first one that you need to remember is that anything to the 0 power is 1. It's not 0. it's 1. Even something like this, as long as the whole thing is to the 0 power, it's equal to 1. The second thing is if I have the same bases that are being multiplied and I need to simplify that expression, I can add those two exponents together. Okay? The third rule is if I have an expression that has the same bases and they're being divided and they have exponents, I can subtract those. So if you notice this example up here, I had x to the 8th divided by x to the 5th, and I subtract those, it becomes x to the 3rd. And the fourth rule that we learned is any power to a power, we just multiply those. And again, you can expand those. In this case, my base is x squared, and so there's actually like two bases. X is a base, and it's being squared, but x squared is also a base that's being cubed. Okay, and if I spread those out, this would be x squared times x squared times x squared, and that expands out to x to the 6th. Okay, so the other rule is any base to a power taken to another power, I multiply those. Hopefully that helps with your review.